Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so we've got some really interesting material today. It's a review, basically, of the 1964 film The Killers. And there's that great poster image, too.
That poster really tells you something right away.
It does. So our mission for this deep dive is to really get into this neo-noir Hitman thriller. You know, figure out what makes it tick, why it's still considered, well, significant in crime cinema.
Yeah, it's got a definite pull to it. Directed by Don Siegel, of course.
Right, Don Siegel. And the cast is just, wow. Lee Marvin, Angie Dickinson, John Cassavetes, Clu Gulager.
And Ronald Reagan, his last film role. Playing against type.
Exactly. It's pretty tight, only 95 minutes. Crime, neo-noir, Hitman stuff, based on the Hemingway short story.
But with a twist.
Yeah, that's the hook, isn't it? These professional hitmen, Charlie and Lee, they go to kill this guy, Johnny North.
And he just takes it, doesn't fight back at all.
Which just completely baffles them. So they decide to find out why. They start digging into his past.
And that's the genius move. It shifts the whole focus from the victim, like in the 46 version, squarely onto the killers and their curiosity.
Okay, let's start right there with that opening. The review called it what, electric? 10 minutes of just bang.
Oh, yeah. Charlie Strom, Lee Marvin, all cold intensity, and Clu Gulager, who's just got this creepy smile. They walk into this school for the blind, broad daylight and just execute Johnny North. It's brutal, almost matter of fact.
But it's his reaction or lack of it that really sets things off. You expect, I don't know, something.
Right, a chase, a struggle, anything, but he's just resigned. It throws Charlie and Lee completely.
It suggests this deep weariness, maybe, like he was already dead inside.
Exactly, and that becomes the engine for the whole movie. It stops being just a job for them.
It becomes, as the review puts it, this existential curiosity for Charlie. Lee Marvin's character.
Yeah, it's more than just tidying up loose ends. It's like Johnny's acceptance challenges their whole worldview, their profession. Well, think about it. Their trade is violence. It usually has a logic, right? Cause and effect. You resist, you run, whatever.
Okay.
Johnny breaking that pattern.
Yeah.
It makes them question the meaning behind what they do. Suddenly, they're not just hitmen. They're almost...
philosophers.
Kinda. Philosophers of death. Trying to understand this guy who just embraced it. Why didn't he fight? What led him here?
Which leads them down the rabbit hole of his past.
And the film uses flashbacks, interviews. It's not told straight through.
How does that work? Does it feel choppy?
Not really. It actually mirrors their investigation. We find things out as they find things out, piece by piece.
Okay, so it builds the mystery that way.
Totally. It keeps you guessing. You're piecing together the betrayals, the bad decisions. It's classic noir structure, really. Part detective story, part character study.
The review mentioned this feeling of pre-new Hollywood grit. What does that mean exactly? Like, for someone not deep into film history.
It's basically that early to mid-'60s vibe. The old Hollywood studio rules were loosening up a bit.
So more realism.
Yeah, more realism, less sanitized. Films started showing crime and violence in a rawer way, more cynicism, morally gray characters. It wasn't the polished noir of the 40s.
So a step towards the grittier stuff of the late 60s and 70s.
Exactly, like Bonnie and Clyde or The French Connection. The Killers has that tougher edge, that disillusionment. You really feel it.
Let's talk characters. Lee Marvin as Charlie Strom, described as cold, magnetic. What makes him stand out?
Marvin just is magnetic on screen, isn't he?
Oh.
He does so much with just a look.
Yeah.
As Charlie, he's the ultimate pro. Efficient, detached, but then you see that little flicker of curiosity about Johnny.
That existential thing again.
Right. It makes him more than just a killer. He's maybe, just maybe, starting to question it all, even if you can't say it. That internal conflict is fascinating.
And opposite him, Clu Gulager as Lee. Smiling, sadistic, unpredictable. He sounds terrifying.
Oh, he is. Gulager plays him with this almost cheerful menace. It's deeply unsettling.
So a total contrast to Marvin's cool.
Complete contrast. Lee is the chaos to Charlie's control. He seems to genuinely enjoy the violence. Their dynamic is just electric, full of tension.
And the man they kill, Johnny North. John Cassavetes. Tragic, fatalistic.
Yeah, Johnny's your classic noir guy. Made some bad calls, driven by pride, maybe love.
And it all leads to that moment at the school.
Exactly. He seems to know he's doomed, accepts it. Even though we see his story in flashbacks, his downfall is kind of the emotional anchor. Shows you what betrayal and bad choices do.
And the woman at the center of it, often, is the femme fatale, Angie Dickinson as Sheila Farr.
Textbook femme fatale, beautiful, you can't quite figure her out, definitely manipulative.
Dickinson plays that well.
Perfectly. Cool, enigmatic, you never know whose side she's really on. She's the catalyst for a lot of the trouble, the betrayals. A reminder that looks are deceiving in this world.
Okay, and we have to talk about Ronald Reagan as the villain, Jack Browning, his last movie role.
Yeah, huge deal. He was the good guy.
Right.
Mr. All-American. So casting him as this, like, cold, ruthless businessman orchestrating everything. Genius move. Totally plays against type.
And that scene where he slaps Angie Dickinson, the review highlights that.
It's genuinely shocking,
yeah.
Especially seeing him do it. It just ramps up the brutality, the moral emptiness of these characters. Really effective, unsettling casting.
It seems like everyone in this film is kind of doomed or disillusioned. That fatalism the review mentioned.
That's pure noir. The sense that you can't escape your past, your choices always catch up. Everyone's chasing something, money, love, whatever, but it's all built on lies and ends in disappointment. No happy endings here.
Visually, though, it's apparently quite striking. Brilliant, hard-edged Technicolor. Seems weird for such a dark story.
But that's the point. That contrast works so well. The bright, almost cheerful colors make the darkness underneath feel even more wrong.
Like that opening hit in the bright sunlight.
Exactly. It's jarring. It highlights the casual horror of it all. It makes the violence pop in a really uncomfortable way. The review called the camera work muscular, which fits Siegel's style. Very direct, purposeful.
And the flashbacks, the jumping around in time, that adds to the feel, too.
Definitely. It makes you feel disoriented, like you're trying to piece together a puzzle, which you are. It reflects the messy, hidden truth they're uncovering. Builds suspense, too, revealing bits of info slowly.
Yeah.
Pretty sophisticated for 64.
And the sound. John Williams did the score. Early John Williams.
Yeah, before Jaws and Star Wars, obviously. It's described as tight, moody, jazz elements mixed with classic noir sounds, creates that perfect, tense, urban atmosphere.
And that theme tune ended up on Dragnet. That's wild.
Isn't it? Kind of ironic, given how different the shows are. The Killers is all moral ambiguity. Dragnet is, well, Dragnet. Just the facts.
Shows how music takes on meaning from context, I guess.
For sure. And the review also mentions the sound design, like the gunshots, the tires screeching, even the silence makes the violence feel sharp, intense.
Let's dig into the themes a bit more, and Siegel's direction. Tight economy and moral ambiguity. Modernizing noir, what does that look like?
Siegel was just efficient. No wasted time, no fluff, straight to the point.
Okay.
And the moral ambiguity, nobody's purely good or bad. Everyone's flawed, driven by greed or self-preservation. Siegel doesn't judge them. He just shows you this world, lets you draw your own conclusions. It's that less is more thing, making it hit harder.
One theme mentioned is the banality of evil. Charlie and Lee kill for a living, no big deal, but then they get curious.
Right. That's the unsettling part. They're capable of this brutal violence, but they also have this almost intellectual curiosity about Johnny. It makes them weirdly human, which is disturbing.
Like, it's not just mindless killing.
Not entirely. It suggests even killers have this basic need to understand things. It makes their violence feel even colder somehow. Like it's just a job mixed with thinking. We see that explored way more in later crime films.
And fatalism and masculinity, contrasting Johnny and Charlie.
Yeah. Johnny's downfall comes from passion. Pride may be seen as a more vulnerable masculinity, while Charlie is all cold discipline, control.
But even Charlie starts questioning things.
Exactly. That hints that even his icy control isn't totally absolute. Maybe nobody's immune to those bigger questions when faced with death like that.
Hence the classics. Greed, betrayal, illusion, standard noir stuff.
Pretty much the trifecta of noir motivation. Chasing money, chasing love, but it's all built on lies, leads to backstabbing, and ends with nothing, really, just emptiness. Nobody wins in the end.
And the violence itself? Abrupt, ugly, emotionally numbing, not Hollywood shootouts.
No glamour at all. Siegel shows violence as quick, brutal, and kind of mundane for the people involved. It makes it more shocking, more real. Strips away any heroism, just the ugly cost.
Now, the review did mention a couple of potential criticisms, like the flashbacks may be feeling choppy now.
Yeah, modern audiences are used to different pacing sometimes. It is fragmented.
And some dialogue being maybe a bit hard-boiled cliche.
Sure, some lines definitely lean into that noir style, but, you know, that's also part of its charm, its identity.
Right. And maybe the short runtime leaves some things a bit unclear. Motivations.
Possibly. But I agree with the review that ambiguity kind of adds to the mood, that feeling that you never really know these people. It works for the film.
So, key things to remember. Marvin's ice-cold charisma,
Definitely.
Gulager's wild unpredictability.
Unforgettable.
Dickinson's layered femme fatale.
Mm-hmm.
Reagan's shocking heel turn.
Big time.
And that brutal opening assassination.
That's the whole thing in motion. Yeah, those are the moments that stick. The performances alone are incredible.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, The Killers, the 64 version, it really comes across as this stylish, brutal, but also kind of philosophical crime flick.
Yeah, a bridge between that classic noir feel and the more modern, maybe existential thrillers that came later.
And the big thing is centering the killers, making them the anchors, exploring betrayal, money, the meaninglessness of it all.
Absolutely. With Siegel's tight direction, Marvin's performance is why people call it criminally underrated. It's cool, but also really cold-blooded.
The review even calls it a spiritual blueprint for the modern crime thriller. That's quite a statement.
I think it holds up. It took noir elements and gave them a contemporary psychological edge by focusing on the killer's weird curiosity. Its influence is definitely there in later films.
So we've taken our deep dive into The Killers. We looked at how that strange premise, why didn't he run, spins out into this whole exploration of fate, betrayal, violence.
All told through that jumpy timeline, those unforgettable characters, and Siegel's stark style.
Hopefully you get a sense now of why this film still packs a punch.
And why it's worth seeking out.
So here's a final thought to chew on. How does this film's idea, a killer's sudden need to understand why, connect to how we think about violence and motivation today? Does trying to understand the why behind horrible acts, even if we can't condone them, change how we see the act itself? Something to think about. And maybe a reason to put The Killers on your watch list.